Why they don't give it to us? How many people in each tag they are requesting that? So this is why they put that criteria.
So, Mr.
Can you hear me?
We actually we put the programs to the other committees as well. The other committees ranked them. We do have exactly what you're asking in terms of here's like this is the Planning and Environmental Committee, for example. This is the service. This is how they ranked it, and they said it should be in the bronze and the silver. And they've gone a step further and said we can potentially add a fee. Carolyn, if you'll pull up that cost of service sheet. So beyond that, what we're doing in the background is making a determination exactly what you asked. The service costs this much. How many people are actually requesting it? And does it make sense? For example, on-site brush chipping. If only 4 people requested in a particular quarter or a particular year, is that really a service we should be providing? So the rankings came out with bronze and silver through a lot of committee input. It's still going to go through budget and finance, and it still has to go through the mayor's review. So there's going to be lots of eyes on it. I think the committees have had way more input this year than they've ever had, which has made a lot of people very nervous. But I'm telling you, I'm committed to say that we're doing as much homework as we can to make sure that we give you good and accurate numbers that we can easily defend.
Yes, looking at this moment, the budget, and we are doing analysis, the big total in one of them for public works in bronze is 380,000 and silver is 447,000. So we have a difference of $67,000. It's a big difference. So if we jump from one to another, that's a big difference. So we need to know exactly what is that, and you are showing that, but it's hard for us to read and to analyze and to say yes or no. For me, 67,000 is a lot. And looking again, the position, I cannot see at this moment on the bottom, what is for the 2 technicians? What is the money? Because I cannot read that. What is the number? 9,000?
The total, yeah, it's $9,360 for the 2 technicians. There is some money up in the top and the benefits kind of spread out as well. But you're correct, it is a $67,000 difference, but $40,000 of that is in the summer youth program.
Yes.
So it's only a $27,000 difference.
Yeah, but looking, for example, the technician, I go back to that. When I was looking the numbers for the 2 technicians, they came for me with $62,940. How you can hire with salaries and benefits 2 technicians for $62,000? It's $31,000. So according with the criteria for technicians, it's $46,000 each. Now, this is why at this moment I have in my mind then we say then we will hire 2 technicians. But today in the meeting, we are not looking technicians. We are looking supervisor, somebody with more skills, as we say. And I don't try to repeat, but this is why since the beginning I have my opinion. Because at this moment, you cannot have somebody that is making $90,000 and moving trash. So at this moment, when we say we will do the job with 3 persons, I think that we need to back up that. So please, we need to be realistic at this moment. And again, we don't have enough time sometimes to analyze that. And it's 67,000 is a lot of money. It's almost 20% the increase from bronze to silver. Thank you.
You. Other comments?
Are we still on this page?
No, I was going to show the workforce piece that we have working in the background. It shows what the breakout is, and that's why what you guys see on the worksheets is looks like a very low amount in some of the funds. It's because, as Carolyn stated, there are the technicians are split among multiple funds. So in one particular fund, for example, it's 7,100, 4,733, and so on and so forth to get to the final total within that particular technician. That's just a method of accounting the city's been using, dividing the staff among various funds. So, okay, Carolyn, you can take the screen back.
And it is, as Alfonso said, it would be closer to the amount he is. There is an amount, like I said, in benefits. Let me pull that back up. Just a sec. Share my screen.
So what, I guess while you're working on it, I just ask a basic question here to follow up Alfonso's question. What is the,
Go ahead.
what's the annual salary that the city would offer to one of these new maintenance technicians? Not including
Maintenance technicians start out at $15 an hour. That's pretty much, they have them for a tech. Yeah, it's $15 an hour. That was the living wage recommendation that the mayor made last year. So that's where they started, $15 an hour.
Okay, so $30,000 a year. And then I would assume that your fringe rate is probably about, ours is 0.3. I would imagine it's probably about the same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about.
Mr. Chairman, the salary is on one part, but will be $23 per hour. Salary and benefits, $23 per hour, $46,000.
I asked her what the take-home pay is, and it's about 30K. And then we compute benefits separately from that, and it's about 30% of that. So that's about another, $10,000.
$46,000.
46.
Yeah, so you can see it.
$46,000.
In these items, you can see the difference between the bronze and the silver. So it's being calculated in the budget between bronze and silver. So you can see the difference in Medicare goes from $1,095 to $1,237 with having maintenance techs added into the equation. So
to understand it, then a maintenance tech would start at about $31,000 per year take home.
yes,
But it costs the city about 1.5 of that.
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
pretty close, yeah.
Okay. Your fringe rate's really, really high compared to the University of Texas.
We have a 2-to-1 retirement plan that's expensive.
But at this moment, this is the business. The business is expensive. So the city is okay. It's not so good, believe me. This is the business that is.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Yes,
this
I
is
have a
Randy.
Randy,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay, Randy. You jumped in first. Go.
Oh, no, I'm not sure. Okay, so this is going to involve, I'm sure, Alfonso on this. I know we talked about this once before, but I'm going to throw him a bone here right up front. I agree with Alfonso. We have talked before about somebody whose supervisory position. In fact, it'd be great. I don't know if there's enough demand for a full-time engineer on staff, but certainly somebody that's very close to that because, for instance, Rudy and I looked at the Ernest Robles Bridge project and the erosion going on there. And I looked at the wing walls and all of the drainage coming at that. And that's going to involve a very technical solution in order to make sure that slippage and subsidence doesn't happen again. I don't know how many projects are of that technical of a nature, but I suspect we have several of them around the city and would love to have an engineer. Now, having said that, if you'll go to the department on the green tax, or actually the drainage utility, which is just below the green tax, I would take out of the bronze budget the detention pond dam for the reason that there is no penalty for non-compliance with the TCEQ regulations on retrofitting the dam at this time. There are downsides in terms of the amount of flooding that would be caused by retrofitting the dam in the way that the engineer proposed to meet the TCEQ requirements. The fix that the regulations are designed to make are due to a dam failure based upon a probable maximum storm event, which is greater than 1 in 10,000 year occurrence. And it's basically a CYA maneuver by TCEQ, targeting dams, large dams in Texas that are very, very old and would impact a wide downstream area. Not this regulation, I assure you, is not designed for our situation, but we fall, unfortunately, into the dam category because it's greater than 6 feet tall. But I think that this is money that does not need to be spent until we get more flush with cash.
So to that, actually, we did take it out of the kind of the operational budget. It's not in the bronze or silver budget. It is listed as a project, but that is all it's listed as now. And we combined it. There was like 95,000 and 245. It's combined as one project at this time. And likely, as you said, we probably have other projects like Sunset Trail that could use more attention and drainage at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess it was confusing because it's under the bronze column. My problem. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to jump in, please, Randy.
Go ahead, Charles, please.
Well, just not to let what Randy Rosengarten go to waste. Very well said, sir. I know Randy has talked about this. He made a presentation on this, and I'm with him 100%. But I wanted to just make a very general comment, I guess. Looking at the first category, where we were looking at the public work expenses at the bottom, the roll up, the total. I noticed that it represented, a reduction from the previous year of about 21%. And just based upon the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting, it appeared as though 25% reduction was, debatable, whether that's a realistic expectation in terms of what we should target as the amount of reduction in revenue we should expect, or at least base our predictions on or our budget on. So, to me, I expect to see reductions to be in the order of 25% or more. This one is 21. It represents a good chunk of the Public Works budget. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I was wondering why it wasn't a little bit heftier than what's advertised. Thank you.
Hey, Charles, so let me clarify that. So the adopted budget for 2019-2020, they have it on here as the 853,556. It's actually because all the salaries were calculated. If you look at the mayor's budget for that, it's $888,686. So that 380 right there is actually a 55% reduction in Public Works budget from 2019-2020 to 2020-2021.
Oh, I was looking at the adopted versus proposed. I wasn't even looking at the 853. That would have been a much more significant number, right? And that's a little confusing. It's not really. It hasn't been officially adopted. That's the COVID. That should actually be the COVID budget right there. That 470,802 should be the COVID budget. The actual 2019 budget, 2020 budget is the one in the kind of weird yellow color.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
I agree. It is confusing. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I think that Caroline, she had a good point, because if we were looking, the current budget was $853,000. But after they eliminate that positions, that drop to 470. So this is a big difference. But this is because they eliminate positions. Now the logic said we have to have more employees. So I think that everything is clear. So it's important to see that 853,000 versus 470, and now 380 or 447. So the reduction mainly was for people that is not working more in that department. So I think that we have to put attention. If we will try to fix that, that will raise the budget, but the people, they need to know what kind of people do you need. And I think that is logical. Thank you.
All right. Other comments?
Yes, one question real quick.
Go ahead.
So the sheet that precedes these budgets indicates that action is sought to provide recommendation to City Council regarding the bronze and silver proposed budgets. So does the bronze budget include the two requested techs for Public Works?
No.
No.
Okay. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to recommend to City Council to approve the bronze budget.
Is there a second for that motion?
This is John. I'll second.
John,
Second.
motion has been made and seconded. Discussion about the motion.
Randy,
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Melissa.
I have a whole bunch of small things, and I totally agree with the motion. Not that I get to vote, but I really, one of my concerns about it taking this long to get around to the budget is that we wouldn't be able to actually look at the actual items that are on the budget. But I have a whole lot of questions. I mean, I probably have, I don't know, 20 items here that give me pause that I think I'd like to have explained, and I think merit some discussion. And I'm concerned that we're recommending a budget when we haven't even gotten to look at a significant amount of items on it. So that's my concern. It's not that I don't think it's a good thing to recommend. It's just I got a bunch of questions on it.
May I interject?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I agree. I'm in the same boat that Melissa is. And I have to ask again the question, and pardon me, I think it's my own misunderstanding here. But okay, so I hear what Carolyn just explained. In terms of the number I was looking at was the adopted budget. This was after we made the cuts that we made. But now, with regard, and maybe this will, Alfonso will be the best guy to actually answer this, because what came out of the Budget and Finance Committee, or Sylvia actually as well, we were looking at this 25% reduction number. But that's 25% reduction from what? I was under the assumption that we were looking at from next year's budget, that we were looking at reducing our budget 25% from the adopted budget, from the budget that we adopted after the fact, the post, whatever you want to call it. After we made our changes, after the crap hit the fan, and we were put under medical martial law. So if I could have clarification there, that would be useful to me. Thank you.
So the original budget, the FY20, what was supposed to be the estimated, if we followed that requirement, it would be 25% off of this 853. However, this is post-COVID, and we labeled this adopted because it does have to go to council as an amended budget. This 470 is with all of the staff cuts, the program cuts, everything that was taken out of the budget. And again, I remind you that you guys are looking at the public works component of the general fund budget. So that's the piece of the budget that took the greatest hit, because that's the most reliant on sales tax. So we've already taken off, like you said, 20%, but I don't feel that I can take any more off of Public Works. I mean, I'm already hearing, that we need a supervisor, we need some other staffing. To take this down any additional, I would be too hard. I don't think I could do it.
No, I hear you. I hear you, Sylvia, on that. And it was just my confusion, I believe. And I'm still not quite sure when we talk, whatever the criteria is that we're using to establish a post-COVID budget. I mean, it's a percentage, general percentage based upon, I'm assuming, the budget that we had before all this stuff happened, the budget that we had established for this current fiscal year, right? I mean,
Yes.
so it's okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Charles, basic in the budget 2019-2020, in general fund, we have $4.8 million. That was predicted. But remember, from the last years, the budget was almost flat. We didn't grow. So we predicted $4.8 million. Now, looking the numbers, at this moment, was a reduction of 42.57% with the month of April. So with April, that was the lowest point. In reality, the reduction was 42.57. So at this moment, the city say, no, we don't believe it will be that reduction. At this moment, they are taking a risk and they say will be only 25%. So the $4.8 million is general fund, so they will have $3.6 million. But also the 25% you need to take from the streets, for the green tax, and from the crime. So it's not easy. So we are at this moment thinking that we will have, in my opinion, more than in reality we will have. So this is a very, very risky. So not necessarily we will have that money. Because remember, we are talking only general fund. The same 25% they will go for the streets, for green, and for crime. And I am afraid that perhaps will be more than 25 than we will lost. So we cannot say at this moment go so high. I think that we need to be careful and we need to go down, and after that start doing adjustments. This is my advisor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alfonso.
All right. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor that we recommend the bronze budget.
Can we look at some of those? Can we look at some of those items while we're in discussion?
Sure.
Okay, because I'll start because there's I'm going to start with general fund. I'm just going to list them, and if other people might have them, then we can go further. I have a question on the grounds maintenance. There's a 116 in 2019. 116K in 2019. It jumps to 135 in 2020 budget. We have a projected spend of 128, and yet then there's 139. So I'm not going to I'm just going to mention that, and if we have time, I want to explain this. But I just want to hit these highlights, and then we can kind of go back. Same thing. There's a strangeness in line 5523 in building services, where it doesn't make sense to me how those projections go. And these are just the larger items. I still have concerns about the movement of salary to funds for our long-time things. That's I think a category that warrants discussion in this committee. Randy got my damn funds thing, so that's all good. I do want to point out, because I agree with Alfonso about the supervision kinds of things, and really moving some of these engineering dollars gives you your fund for getting a full-time engineer on staff, or even a part-time engineer on staff, because it only takes 16 weeks to start funding that at $160 an hour. There's another staff position hidden in the emergency services. You've got $40K in water wastewater that could fund a staff person that we've created an emergency service response for. And that, again, that funds one of those positions. Line 5373, why was there a $118,000 jump there? I've got, those are probably my highlights. I'm concerned about the operating transfers. I'm concerned about the a review by the Texas Rural Water Association that would make us solvent. And again, the thing that they were making the solid waste subsidies solid, they were recommending it to half in planning and environmental, and I think maybe we should even recommend to fully solvent. I don't think that would break anybody to pay for their trash, and then we you know, potentially funded another position or two. So those are my highlights. I actually have more lowlights in there, but I'm just concerned that we're at 838 and we're not really getting into the meat of this budget, and that makes me feel like we're not doing our jobs and like we're not supervising. That's my 2 cents.
All right. Other questions, discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor. The Public Works Committee approve or support the bronze budget. Any further discussion about that?
Is there, I need a clarification on the motion. Is that because the committee's only really discussed the general fund budget? Is that just to the general fund, or is that across the board, all funds? And can we clarify the motion also to budget and finance?
Randy, it's your motion.
Yeah, both.
So the motion is to recommend the bronze budget across all funds?
Yes.
All right. Are we ready to vote?
And can we have everybody vote in the chat so we can record it?
Oh, Hal?
I'm
If you
sorry,
can just vote yes, if you can vote yes or no in the chat feature so that we can record everybody's vote.
Carolyn, some of these folks have called in, so if they could call out their name and their vote,
Yes.
that would be sufficient.
Oh, how about, well.
If you want me to call roll, I can do that.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Say again.
Is there an opportunity to get one question in before we vote? There's something that,
Go ahead.
okay, there's something that stood out, and it had to do with, I don't know, maybe it's the last category, but, you know, the street repair. You know, I know we talked about earlier about the fact that the overlays were going to go by the wayside, but yet according to this schedule, the spreadsheet, they're included, and they're, you know, it makes for a massive increase, and it doesn't seem like that's appropriate based upon what we've already discussed. Like those street repair items or the overlay item should be included.
And so that was kind of what I was looking at in the last agenda item, was to get those to be recommended not to be included in that.
That would make that would have a huge impact on the overall budget, would it not?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe that would be a friendly amendment to
Charlie?
exclude those items.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
but that expenditures, they are from the streets, and they are from the reserves. So we have $6 million in reserves for streets.
Right.
So this is not general fund. So streets has his fund, and that fund has over $6 million. So
Right.
this is different.
There is not a shortage of funds that would prevent us from doing it. If we didn't do it this year, it would be simply because we don't have adequate staff to
Yeah.
supervise
That's correct.
and
That's
to work.
correct.
I agree.
Yeah, and it was my understanding that per Randy's discussion about that, that before mill and overlay was done, that there would be an inspection to justify that it needed to be done at that point in time. Otherwise, the budget would not necessarily be spent. But if it was found that there was significant deformation in that time frame, then they would do the mill and overlay, but not before.
I think that's the intent of the basic policy.
I'm just going to put this out one last time just so people hear it. We are not putting a person in. We're saying we need a maintenance tech, and there's 40,000 in contractual services going in your proposition. So I just want to say that out loud so nobody can say they didn't hear it. That's a new line item, two new line items. So I just want to say that so that nobody can say they didn't hear it.
Those line items are silver. Those are silver budget line items. Is that not correct?
Those were the emergency ones.
But I mean,
Yeah,
those,
the emergency,
okay. Are those included or not in this?
those are included
this
in the utility budget, I think in bronze.
Yeah, they're included in bronze.
So by
And so
virtue
you,
of, I'm sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
well, it just concerns me because I do believe that we need a maintenance tech. We're sitting here saying we don't need it. We're willing to throw it at contractors who who are a lot less flexible, and I feel like we're not paying attention to that as we move forward in this budget. So I just wanted to say that out loud because they're new items. It's 40,000, and it's contractors instead of an actual person that we could be paying. And so I just wanted to call that out.
Okay.
So actually, the emergency item is at your request to have some backup staff as per the FEMA guidelines. So that is not just that's not just one particular staffer. That's if we need assistance with clearing roads, if we need assistance with water line breaks, anything that would be part of an emergency response.
I understand that's the staff justification. I don't, but don't say that it's at mine because it does not address my concern whatsoever. So don't credit me with that. But I understand that's the staff justification.
Excuse me, Melissa?
Mm-hmm.
Melissa? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I can hear your concern, but at this moment I am curious. Are you looking for 2 new technicians, or are you looking for 1 operation manager supervisor?
I think that what I'm looking for was what I requested during council, which is at least 1 person with a C license. That's my first thing that I think that's critical. You could do that at a tech level, as at a low thing. You could do it as a management level. I share your concern, but if I'm fighting for 1 position, you know, I think that there's room in here with reorganization if we put our thinking caps to get both things. You know, I agree with you, Alfonso. There needs to be supervision for the projects, and there needs to be a C license.
But Melissa, I think that at this moment we are confusing the point, because 1 is for water and wastewater with license. Another is with experience in projects, principal construction projects, and streets. So we're talking 2 different things.
I think we need both, Alfonso. But right here I can find you money for 1 of them, and so that's why I called this one out. I agree with you, but we're not going over this budget in a way that I think we ought to go over this budget. We weren't allowed time. We weren't allowed, you know, and so I have concerns about that. And I totally agree that we need both things. And I totally agree that the hit to public works was disproportionate. And I want to just go ahead, since I've got the floor for a second, say the statistics. We took an 80% cut out of the general fund when we did that. It's 38.5% down off the budget, not 42, and we're shooting for 25. But in my opinion, since we've already hit public works at a disproportionate amount, it shouldn't be coming out of public works. There are other places to do it. So that's just my 2 cents.
And Melissa, this is Randy Rosengarten. I appreciate all that, and my motion was due to the constraints of the time to review this, and given the options between the bronze and the silver, and not enough time to really go through item by item. I prefer the bronze budget, and I understand. I don't believe that if there's a need for some additional items over and above the bronze on a line by line basis or on a need basis, that can't be resolved on an individual basis to be added to the budget, and council would be sympathetic to that. But if I have to believe that Sylvia and her staff have presented us with the essentials in the bronze, and I think that that's a baseline, and I see things in the silver that I would not want to approve at this point in time for a couple of reasons, some of which I object to and others of which I haven't had time to evaluate. So if staff wants to come back, or if an individual wants to come back and justify something different than what the bronze allows for in the budget, I think that that's a separate item. But the way I looked at this was a bronze or a silver, or we can spend another 5 or 6 hours evaluating this and then say bronze with these 25 additions or changes versus the myriad that is presented here. And so that was the reason for my motion. Thank you.
I understand, Randy. I just wanted to say that was why I started fighting for this to come much sooner, and I've just been frustrated that way. So we're all having a little bit of frustration. I understand that, and I understand exactly what you did and why you did it, and I understand, and it makes perfect sense to me. I just don't think that we should not look at things if we can, and it concerns me that we're not. That's all.
There is
Comment from Mickey.
a call for an additional meeting.
Comment from Mickey.
Okay, go ahead, Mickey.
Yes. You know, I understand Randy's side of this, and I understand Melissa's side, and Randy, it goes back to your comments too about the possibilities of needing other people. And I feel like to some extent we're trying to vote for expediency because of time constraints. And I don't know that you can always depend on council later to say, well, here's something that we need to bring back later. And well, why didn't you guys talk about that back when you were doing it? And I'm really caught in between. I mean, I really am. I feel torn about voting yes for the majority of it, but there's some very important things here that need to be gone over. And I don't know if that means another meeting for people, but it bothers me. I guess that's where I am with it. It bothers me. Thank you.
So Chairman, we are willing to, however many meetings it takes for this committee to get comfortable, we can do that. Budget and Finance doesn't see this for another few weeks.
Well, would the committee like to have another meeting to further discuss this?
I'd like to interject something before we get to that question, Randy.
Go ahead, Charles.
With regard to the issue, the main issue I think that Melissa is bringing up with regard to bringing on more staff in terms of the water and wastewater services and such. I mean, this is a discussion when Melissa, when you made your presentation to City Council 2 meetings ago, you made your point very well clear, and the City Council made a decision, and they decided that, as you admitted, that it wasn't, that they didn't feel that it was a viable expense. And in fact, Sylvia weighed in on that, the mayor weighed in on that, both against what you were proposing. I thought the arguments were very well presented. So, I think we've already been there on this issue, on that particular issue, for what that's worth. My fear, and I hate to use the word fear, but, is that we're going to find ways to add to this budget. And I don't feel that, my gut feeling, as Alfonso mentioned, that we haven't been conservative enough. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to vote now, just because I'm leery of going any further with this because I think it's going to just inevitably create more expense, more budget than less. Thank you.
Well, I actually see about a couple of hundred in here that I think needs to be explained. So, but I'm sure I will get it heard by someone in budget and finance, so I'm not really worried about it. Except that I am concerned about process. I'm not looking to add any. There are actually things that I think ought to be cut. So, but neither here nor there. If people want to move forward, people will move forward, and I'm on council, and I'll make sure that the things that I want to get done will get addressed. But I really, it does concern me that we're going so rapidly. But I understand. So I will be quiet now.
Well, as I said earlier, I understand that as well. I do. And if there's feelings that we can trim this further, then I'm all for another meeting and put the time necessary to, to assure that we have something that we all can be confident about and make a decision one way or the other on.
All right. Well, we have a motion on the floor, and by the rules, I think we need to vote on that motion, either yay or nay, or if anybody wishes, they may abstain. But I think considering the fact that we're partially on phone and partially on computer, probably a roll call voice vote is the only way to do this. And so,
Yes, I will roll call.
yeah, will you do the roll call, Sylvia?
Yes. Chair McAmel.
I vote in favor of the motion.
Mr. Schroeder is not here. Mr. Belanca.
I'm here.
I vote yes.
Mr. Schroeder,
Schrader
you're
is here.
Okay, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Belanca?
I said abstain.
Oh, okay, Mr. Schroeder abstains. Randy, yes. Ken abstains. Mr. Belanca?
Yes.
Mr.
For the
Carmona?
motion.
Mr. Carmona?
With the motion,
Yay or nay?
yes. Bronze,
Thank you. Mr. Goyette?
No.
Vicky Powers?
Yes, with concerns.
Mr. Rosengarten?
Yes.
Five yeses, one no, and one abstention.
Okay, the motion passes. And we can still schedule another meeting if the committee wishes. So I think that's an option that we might want to consider.
I would recommend that, given that there's so much concern tonight over the budget. I'm not opposed to having however many meetings this committee feels comfortable with having.
Right. Ellen, what's the next item on the agenda?
The next item was to discuss the utility and solid waste budgets, but we kind of did all of them in one. That was the motion, basically, to do it across all budgets.
Okay.
And I didn't know if you guys wanted to revisit what the projects and want to make it into an actual motion. You talked about doing an inspection to perform the roadway on the roads and making sure that, and then that would determine anything that would happen in those areas.
I'll be happy to go look at the roads for you. I think I told you I'd do that the other day. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'll do it.
All right, thank you.
I'll give you a signed letter from the professional engineer. How's that?
That sounds good.
Okay. Are we about to the end of the agenda? It's just about 9 o'clock. And I guess if we're about to the end of the agenda, then it would be a good time for us to discuss whether we want to have another, specifically with items in the budget process.
Randy, you're fading again.
Oh, sorry. I posed the question, do we want to schedule another meeting, an extra meeting, to deal specifically with questions that committee members may have about budget items? Anybody want to do that?
I would vote yes on that. This is John.
Okay, John said yes. Any other yeses?
Mickey would like to do that.
Nikki would like to do that.
I yield to the majority. If they feel it necessary, I'll be more than happy to involve myself.
Okay, Charles. Anybody else in favor? Alfonso, how do you feel about having another meeting?
I think that is important. I think that is not the numbers. I think that we need to clear out some of that concerns. I agree with that.
Okay,
I support that.
all right. Anybody against the idea? Nobody's against? Okay, let's see if we can schedule another meeting. What do you say, within the next week?
I am open anytime.
Okay,
And we will make ourselves available, Chairman, whatever day this committee wants. And it doesn't exactly have to be 7 o'clock. If the committee's amenable to earlier in the day, we can do it earlier in the day.
Sylvia, when is the next budget and finance meeting?
On the Thursday, tomorrow.
And then
okay,
there's one
so-
July 2nd.
Okay, so we may get some input from the budget and finance tomorrow, so next week isn't too soon. Good.
all right. Next week sometime?
Yep.
So there's no meeting on the 30th on the Tuesday. I don't know if anybody, what time would work for everybody. Correct, Sylvia? No meetings next Tuesday?
Correct.
How about Tuesday the 30th then?
Yeah.
Would we like to start at 5:30 or 6 o'clock?
That's fine with me.
Same here.
Okay, 6 o'clock?
Anytime.
I would prefer as late as possible, the 6th rather than 5:30.
Okay,
Okay.
about 6 o'clock then, Tuesday, 30 June
Good.
for the next
Okay.
meeting. Okay,
We will post that agenda tomorrow. And it is, the agenda topic is going to be continue budget discussion.
sounds good.
Okay.
Do exactly that. So that being the case, we've scheduled our next meeting and it is 9 o'clock. I'm sorry that the meeting has gone so long, but I think we all expected that it would, and we really didn't get to cover all the ground that we had planned on covering anyway. So looking forward to next Tuesday.
If there's anybody that needs additional clarification or needs additional information, please let myself, Carolyn, or Susanna know. Susanna's been on this call the entire time as well. We're happy to send out any particular information if anybody has any questions or needs clarification.
Very good.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right.
I won, John.
I beat John out on the motion.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Yeah, planning and environmentals meeting, it was everyone seconded.
Good night.
Thank you.